today we wanted, you and I talked about going over some of the golf fundamentals. I really would like to talk to you about, some of the fundamentals you used in your life, growing up and how it evolved and, basic, grip, ball position, those types of fundamentals, and anything else you want to go into and give the viewers something that they can take home and start to work on and build into their game, whether advanced players or whether they're beginners. Because I think we probably agree on this, is that basic fundamentals are vital, whether you're an elite player or whether you're just a raw beginner.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, those fundamentals are of the utmost importance: grip, stance, ball position, and posture. Those would be the fundamentals. And if something goes wrong in your game, it's normally, and you're a good player, it's normally one of those fundamentals that is just a bit off. You can go and look and search in your swing for mistakes, but 9 out of 10 times it's one of those fundamentals that's gone a little bit awry. And nine out of 10 times you fix that, you don't have to look anywhere else.
Yeah, there was a book, I believe it was Steve Elkington wrote it. I thought it was really interesting because I see it on the practice tee quite a bit. Is when you grip the club, I know you can see people come in backwards with both hands all over the yard, but I typically see the backhand, and he mentioned that in his book about that. People just don't get their backhand, their rear hand, or for us right-handers, it's the right hand, but they don't get it on the club. They'll either get it over here, way under here, and it just seems like if you can, get your left hand, obviously on the right spot where you want it, and it's got under the heel pad, and it's strong enough to support the club and all that, hinging, all that. But then getting your right hand, I think, becomes very important. I think it has I'd like to.
One of the reasons why I'm a good chipper is because I have the right hand correctly on the club. I think if you point the club out in front of you, and you try and keep this line as much as possible, the shaft, the hand, and the forearm, rather than it be in the fingers too much.
Yeah.
Because when it's in the fingers too much, the club runs away for you too much on the backswing, and it's going to outrun you on the downswing again. Whereas if you practice the 10-finger grip, the right hand goes on the club better versus an interlock where it tends to get in your fingers. But if you teach yourself the feeling or the sensation of the 10-finger grip, then go to the interlock or overlap.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because as soon as I did that with a 10-finger, I can feel it. Because I like to have it. I don't like to get my right hand in here and then do all this stuff.
No,
I like it.
No, so the difference between golf and all other batting sports, you grip the club in the hand, whether it's tennis, baseball, squash, anything like that. It's all, however, the glove is a bit bigger too, so it's easier when it goes in the hand. Golf, you've got this thin grip, so it's very easy for you to fall into the trap of getting it in your fingers rather than in the hand.
Yeah, you're one of the first guys that I've heard talk about that, and that's interesting because a lot of guys want to get. There's a lot of books written that talk about get it in the fingers and then get the V point, but it's too flimsy.
I definitely agree.
And I like to get it I like it right in that baseline, right here, and then get this hand in there, and then when I hit, I don't have all this. I feel like
correct.
I hit it.
Yeah, correct. Your club face stays a lot squarer just before, at, and just after impact.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's a great tip for everybody to start with right there. And
so the other thing, just when we're on chipping there, if it's in your fingers, the club face opens up too fast. It just turns open. If it's more in your hands, the club can face the ball a little longer. So the club face faces the ball a little longer, especially on chipping. And that way you use the bounce of the club when you're hitting. Rather than opening, when you open up, that bounce gets caught behind the ball all the time. And that's when you hit inconsistent chips and you don't get the ball up in the air consistently.
Yeah, let me ask you a question since you're talking about that, because you're talking about the straight line here from there. And then when I was watching you, it was looking like that,
yes.
on the forearm plane.
So yes, so now the club can bend backwards either. You can cock it backwards just a little bit for the chip shot, and then hold that angle and turn through it.
Yeah, even I've got an old video that I show, like, if you saw a little bitty kid that's got a little bit of talent, just grabs a club, they don't go like this. They'll just kind of bend their wrist back.
Correct. There you go. There you go. That's perfect. Right there.
Right. And you don't cock it like this.
No.
You don't roll it.
No.
And,
just goes backwards. It cocks backwards, and you don't open that club face.
Yep. So I know there's a lot of styles when you get into chipping and pitching and so forth. You kind of have the wrist, the arms, where the wrist kind of move and then the arms go that, and then you have kind of more of that kind of the arms and the arms and the shoulders kind of stricter, and then you have a little bit of that. Correct. I don't know. I've seen it. Tom Pernice is the one I watched do it. He kind of has a weird deal. He sets up pretty square, and it's kind of inside and inside like that. Those are the three. Those are the three main styles that I see. You have one in particular?
Yeah. Well, Tom Pernice, he doesn't try and open the club face on the backswing. He tries to have that takeaway feel like it's facing the ball a little longer. Yeah, he never opens it. The club face doesn't outrun the shaft on the way back. That's the start, and that's the way you want to come down again.
And he comes, when I watch him pitch around the greens, he really gets he doesn't try to drag the handle down the line or any of that stuff. He lets it swing around the corner.
Yeah, and it's easier turning your body and letting that club face stay around you rather than running away from you.
Yeah. That's one of the things that as I see is is especially better players. They'll try as they come in here to hit just a little basic wedge shot. They'll try to drag it like that, and I think I don't like that at all, because you're using the leading edge, not the bounce. I need to back up.
Yeah, no, quite right.
So do you have a feeling like when you come through the ball? I don't have my sandwich here, but I'll do it anyway. When I come through, I like it to be kind of like it follows the line of my belt buckle like this, or my belt loops like this.
Yeah. So the club exits in a square way and not in a flipped over way.
Yeah.
Club fits. It stays in the position that it was impacted at. It doesn't flip over. You keep that club face almost looking at the sky.
So I'm going to go this way towards you, David.
Yes.
All right. So when I come through, you're wanting this right here.
Yeah.
The face, right?
That's right.
That's kind of the angle. You could have it more. If I had it more open, I could have it.
Yeah. There you go. Beautiful. You can feel like your left arm just chicken wings a little bit on the way back. There you go. So that keeps the club face very square through the shot.
Yep. That's going to put a lot of spin on the shot too.
Yeah, because it allows you to be a lot more descending on the downswing. And then as you turn, you just chicken wing that left arm a little bit. All right. Yep. And then you can control the distance and the spin of the ball.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because you see a lot of the guys when they hit these shots. Jordan Spieth will come to mind, but then it was David Duval and a lot of guys.
Yeah, Jordan tends to play with that flying left arm through the ball.
Yeah, even his whole shot.
That's even on his full shots.
Yeah. So that's it. That's interesting. Well, usually when I hit it, I'll kind of just snug it in a little bit like this.
There you go.
I could have my elbow anywhere, and the face is all right. I'm gonna be good.
Well, I'm talking mainly of the little pitch shots or 3/4, maybe 40, 50-yard shots. That's when you want to feel this left arm just chicken wing a little bit instead of releasing and staying tucked.
Yeah, and I think
that way the club face has to flip over, whereas this way it doesn't flip over. You just hold that angle, and the club face can stay square through impact and after.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the great point about the grip. If you get it too far, this is going to be too far in the fingers. You'll see the face kind of roll. The face will roll, and then when I hit, the handle wants to go backwards.
Correct. So like I said earlier, if it's in the fingers on the way back, the club face is going to outrun the shaft, and on the way down, it's going to outrun it again. So again, you just get in the hands. That's not going to happen, and then that can happen.
Yeah, and I think that what's so important about that is it starts to set you up. Once you got to a 40, 50-yard shot, you know, you're hitting these shots where, like this.
Yeah.
So you're only about a foot away from having
Correct.
the wings.
Correct.
So it's not like.
But I mean, generally, that's for the whole golf swing too. You don't want to have to make this big John Daly move at the top, unless you're very talented like him.
Yeah,
But I like the Stricker move where the club is just 3/4 back. You've made a full shoulder turn. Your arms have turned out of the socket, and from there it's a lot easier to control the pace of the arms and match it up with the pace of the body.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point too. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. It's going maybe off the grip, but you know, one of the questions it's not. I consider when you're hitting 40 and 50-yard shots, you're in full swing ball striking fundamentals, I should say. I know it's not a full swing, but you're in you know, it's not like a chip shot where it's a single lever shot and it's just like a putt. You know, when that club starts hinging away and setting another lever, you know, you're in ball striking mode. It's at that point, in my opinion, and makes the game a little tougher. But one of the things that I like to teach, but I hear from students mostly is like, I want my hips to go. I want my hips to really spin and all this stuff. And it's like, why? You know, it'd be like you wouldn't want to start with your hips here and try to pull something. You know, you could blow your back out. I'd like to feel my body in my club coming together all in one unit. But I'm here. I mean, the body's opening, but the club's coming in on time. Versus, I don't like to see a big delay.
So what I understand by that is that you really want to, as you swing the club back, your shoulders turn more than your hips.
Yep.
Because your shoulders turn more than your hips, the shoulders have got to catch up to the hips, and then once they've caught up, then they can keep going. So, you know, in this wind-up you have, in the wind-up and the lateral shift, as the lateral shift happens, the hips stay square, the arms then the shoulders then catch up to the hips, and because you've had that lateral shift, it's given you time to stall with the hips, but they haven't stopped. They've stalled, but they're still moving. Stalled, but they're still moving, and at that time, your shoulders have time to then outrace the hips.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the hands come in with that as well. I love that analogy because every time I believe, you know, there was a series Golf Channel did, I don't know, it's maybe 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, but it had three, you know, phenomenal players doing the, talking about, you know, what's the most important thing. And it was funny, it was an hour-long session. So all of them had, you know, because they're players, they have all three different, everything different, grip, this. But there was one thing that was in common with all three of those players was they wanted to come into transition and get stable in transition and stable and slow for just a split second in transition, and then everything goes. That was the only common denominator, and I watched those videos over and over and over and over. It was Greg Norman, Raymond Floyd, and Nick Faldo. Pretty good company there. And you know, I think you hit the nail on the head, and you don't hear it though a whole lot. It's getting more out there now in instruction. It's getting better at certain levels, but you know, a lot of times people are still talking about, you know, ground reaction forces and, you know, squat and stiffen up, and I don't buy into all that. I believe in you sink in, and then everything comes together, and then everything will start to gradually come up, but not.
You know, you want to. I mean, the grip is obviously, we spoke about that, but it always comes back to the grip. You know, the worse your grip is, the more everything can go wrong, or little things can go wrong. So if your grip is too much in the fingers and you have that lateral shift, the club is going to get stuck behind you. And then you got to back up, make room for the club and your arms to then pass you on the way down. Whereas you have those good fundamentals in your grip and you get shifting now, because the club is in your hand better, it's a little easier to accelerate the club face and not worry of it getting stuck behind you. So I like to just think of that simple thought. You know, your shoulders are going to turn further than your hips, and on the way down, you're just going to allow the hips to not rotate too fast, but let the shoulders catch up, and from there, you're away.
Yep. That's an easy, simple way, and that's what I like about when I talk with tour players. I mean, that are on the high playing on the world stage. You don't have time to be thinking a lot of junk. You really you listen to a tour player talk versus a teacher. It's a teacher might go on for 4 hours about this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
You have to kind of know those things, really, and I'm not knocking them out. I'm certainly not. They have to know a lot of different things to be able to help certain players, and that's a whole different job. But a tour player, it's usually like it's a one. It's kind of like, hey, man, just seriously, like, get this right, get this, and then hit it. And then go find it. And it's an easier way to get better at the game, like you said last week on the podcast. It's too much, a little bit too much stuff out there versus about playing as well.
I mean, you want to, that's why you have the driving range. You go to the driving range and you practice and you groove things. And then you get on the golf course, you got to allow your athletic ability that you've been practicing to take over. The more you go to the golf course and the more you try and practice on the golf course rather than just playing golf, the harder it is for you, the harder it is going to be for you to let go out there. I like the expression that Bob Rotella would always say to me, is just get out of your way. Get out of your way. And if something starts bugging you again, you got to say to yourself, man,
it throws up there for a second. I repeat that last part.
Get out there so your athletic instincts can take over. So if you get out of your way, your athleticism can do the competing for you, rather than you trying to be so, methodical on the golf course. Leave that for the driving range. And a good way to do that too is what I like to do sometimes. Just before I'm going to go to the tee, I've warmed up. I'm going to play 9 holes on the driving range. I'll play the front 9 or the back 9. I'll hit the drive, and then my caddy will say, all right, you got 150 in, pin is tucked left. I'm going to hit a draw with a 7-iron, 8-iron, whatever. But play 9 holes on the golf course, on the driving range before you actually go to the first tee.
Very smart. I know Ben Hogan talked about that quite a bit as well. Like, he'd play the golf course and one of the things he said, I don't know if you ever heard this quote, but from him, but he used to sit back on the away from the driving range and just watch people practice, and he would and this is him, he would just, in his way he put it, he said he would just kind of laugh at the way they're preparing, because they're just starting off with full swings, and they're just swinging, they're working on all kinds of crazy stuff, and they're not playing golf, they're in the club, and they're not playing golf.
I've been guilty of that myself. You watch Tiger and Rory, watch these guys warm up or even practice. It's just like an automatic machine gun firing away. And Ben Hogan only used to hit 25 balls at a time, and then he'd go and pick him up.
Yep.
So he wasn't there for, he'd take a break after and then come back, but he wouldn't hit more than 25 balls because he didn't think his concentration, and he didn't think it was a good idea to hit so many balls in succession. That's just, you watch TV cameras, before the round or after the round, showing video of Tiger or Rory, as I say, and then they'd be pounding away. And it's a bad message in a way, I think, rather than taking a break or going back behind the ball and look at where you're trying to hit it, and walk into the shot rather than hitting, 55 irons in a row.
Yeah, that's the one thing every student that I have will tell you, that I've used the same thing, the 20 to 25 ball rule, and that was from Hogan as well. And he would a lot of times go get some water. He would might write notes from what I gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong. That's just what from I heard. But he would sit down and think about what he just did after, and it wasn't machine gun fire. You step up and whack it, and all that stuff. And I think you burn out too. I mean, I think that mentally you burn out and you kind of get exhausted. if you're sitting there just bashing balls. I love your point about him picking. I've said this to so many of my students, the kids, juniors, that, you know, they say Ben Hogan hit thousands of balls a day. It's like he didn't have time to hit 1,000 balls a day back when he really was coming up. He was pulling to a field and throw down some balls, and he'd shag them up himself, come back and fire away again. And he was mindful of what he was doing, you know.
No, he was very methodical of what he did, but he didn't overdo it. He didn't, you know, he had his certain fundamentals, and he just stuck to that and let his athleticism play the game.
Yeah, and you know, another thing is that what we were just talking about, how we started the show was you know, he was a phenomenal pitcher around the greens. I mean, pitcher, chipper, whatever you want, anything around the greens, he was fantastic.
Yeah, he was good at that, but his putting went, if you want to call it that. The time I saw him, he would rest his left arm, he would rest his left hand. I'll put my foot up here. He would rest his left hand on his thigh, and just and have that rest the right hand work just like a piston almost. That's how he putted. That's the last way he putted.
Wow. They said Paul Runyon tried to work with him on putting, because Paul Runyon was just so much better than everybody else back then in putting. And from what I gathered, they changed the rules. I think the diameter of the hole was either half inch or an inch bigger back in those days. And that might have been like, what, the 40s or whatever, somewhere in there. But then they changed it. They made it smaller because of Paul Runyon, because he made everything. But he had
never heard that one.
Yeah, so it's crazy. They also the 9, you know, your putter can't be 9 degrees, because see, Runyon would putt. We call it carpenter's elbows. And it's all, you know, there's a lot of debates, but he would get his elbows, and he'd look in and say, "Hey, try to push and he would be just locked, and then he would just that. And he was the first guy to ever do a belly putter. I mean, really, truly have a belly putter. But anyway, he did this called carpenter's elbows, and man. And so he showed Ben Hogan, and he said, you know, Ben Hogan said, "I'll never putt like that. You know, there's just not a chance." You know, but because the way it looked.
If we're going to go to putting now,
definitely. Hey, Robbie, can you snap me that putter?
I just pulled my old putter out of the garage the other day. This is one of the first putters that I used growing up.
Oh, that's bullseye.
It's an old bullseye, yeah. And I thought it was great to learn to putt with a bullseye, because it teaches you, you know, the club will just swing on the inside a little bit, square at impact, and it'll swing through swing inside on the way through. And it teaches you, you know, there's a much smaller sweet spot, so it's a lot harder to putt with. Today you got this big big putter head that swings the club for you instead of you swinging it. So I was lucky to start putting with a small putter like this. But the point I was trying to make in putting, you talk about Runyon who had his elbows open.
Yep.
A good way to, same thing. You want to feel like your putter is, there are 2 grips. There are 2 grips in golf. One is the driving grip, where your hand's on top of the club is in back of your hands to get the club all the way to the top of the swing. All right. Then the other grip is the putting grip, where the club is in front of your hands and not in back of your hands. So here they're in front, and there they're in back. So with a putter, your hands are in back of the club, not on top of the club. What that does is it stop. In the fingers, it tends to flip again, like I told you on the hitting, on the short game. Whereas if you get the club in front, then you have to move your arms. You have to move those elbows. And a good way to check on whether you're doing that properly is if you stood up and you pointed this club to your sternum, the club is parallel to the ground, and now you bend down. That's your position. If the club is pointing up in the air, no, get the club parallel to the ground. Parallel to the ground, pointing at your sternum. You're pointing at your stomach too much.
Right
Yeah.
here.
Now flip. Yeah. Now point those elbows out. A little
Okay.
more. A little more. See, now the club is pointing
Oh, yeah.
parallel to the ground.
Yep.
Now bend down. Now bend down. And now the club's in front of your hands,
Yes, it is.
not in back. So that's a good way to check it. You know, a lot of times your shoulders are too lopsided. Left arm is too straight. Right arm is bent down here because the right hand's below the left. Okay. That
Yep.
that puts the left hand a little more over the, little too far over the top. There are a few guys that putt like that. Brad Faxon's one of them. I prefer to have, like I said, point the club at my sternum, flip the elbows out, and then bend down. And you can work them in a little bit from there, but that's generally a way in which you're going to get your putter perpendicular to the ground. And you want to have the putter as perpendicular to the ground as you can get it. You don't want it to be, you don't want to have that big angle from the ball up to your hands. If you can get closer over the ball this way, that way you can rock your shoulders and have your legs very stable at address.
Yeah, and that was one of the, you know, of course you're obviously a very well balanced player from tee to green to on the green, but you know, you made a lot of putts too. I mean, that was I know a major part of your success, and that 15 to 25 foot stat is huge on the tour. And you know, whether you're putting for, most of the time you're putting for birdies, but that's when you look at who is the top 5-10 players in the world, that stat pops up. And I know it's different.
I never, it was never a thing for me to make a putt. I didn't look at the hole and go, oh, I got to make this putt. It was more of a sensation that I had of just rolling the ball. The better I rolled the ball, the better chance the ball I have would be. The better I rolled the ball, the better chance the ball would have to find the hole. So I would never, you know, I would pick my line and trust the roll. I wouldn't try and make the putt.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, but it's just one of those, you know, things that I was able to trust myself and allow myself to feel and think that way.
So I like this with the sternum drill and getting it parallel and the elbows out, and then you bend and the club's in front of you. It makes a lot of sense because, you know, like I said, when you start getting offset angles this way, and I see a lot of guys putt, you know, they putt, you know, on the amateur level, you know, they're over here with the hands down, their shoulders are over, and they're putting and they're hitting these big.
You know, it boils down to a few other fundamentals around that. You want to feel your eye line is in line. You know, a good way to do it is just to, I used to, well, with a cap, you just look up, form a straight line in the sky or on the horizon, and then just bend down. So that, you know, that's a straight line now. Because a lot of times your eyes fool you. Your eyes lie to you. You think this is square, but you're actually leaning to the left. You think that's square, you actually lean to the right. So just as a drill, you know, look up. Then you can see what's straight. And from there, just peek down. And that's your line that you want to have your eyes on. And that'll make the putter go inside and inside. It won't go outside and cut across it. You know, there are a few guys that are left eye dominant and want to kind of lean a little bit this way. Larry Myers is a little bit like that, where his eye line's more this way than mine is more square or a little more inside. So you have different guys, but, you know, you can develop a bad habit if you went too far.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tend to see more guys if they make the mistake, the better players, I should say, they'll kind of shift their head this way just a little bit, like you're saying, like a Jordan Spieth. Just a little bit. You know, even Nicklaus kind of played behind it, and But in general, you know, their eye line, like you said, you know, this is a big problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're standing to the side of the golf ball. You're not standing over the top of it. So you want that putter to swing a little in and a little in. You can't, you know, it's so hard to keep it square and square. It's just going to come in a little bit. It's going to be square at impact, then it's going to come in a little bit after the ball. And because you're standing to the side, it's hard to prevent that from happening and try and force a shut and an open path.
Right. No, that makes sense. Any other drills? Those are great. That one, well, both of those are going to be great because, I mean, the first one you gave us was going to help square everything off, get a lot of all this stuff, and the second one as well kind of helps the second one, but it also looks Yes.
my golf pro at my club, his name was John Ferree. Good player, played competitive golf, tournament golf. You know, unlike some club pros who did never play competitive golf, but he would always practice. He would have a practice drill where he'd have a 6-foot putt, but he'd aim a straight putt. He'd aim 2 cups to the right of the hole in the practice swing. So his putter would always go on the inside.
Yep.
And then when he gets over the ball, he'll straighten up. So his putter would always swing inside out, inside out, inside out. And then when he gets to the ball, it'll be inside square.
That makes sense. That would be a good one for a lot of players.
So another interesting tip is I don't have a golf ball here, but
Gotcha.
I have a cap of a wine bottle. I have a cap of a wine bottle.
That'll work.
So if you were to address the ball out of the heel of the putter, like that, or sorry, in the middle of the putter, as you swing it back, centrifugal force will hit it out the middle. You're addressing it here, you take it back, centrifugal force will hit it out the middle. A lot of people have it in the middle of the putter. A lot of people have it in the middle of the putter there and try and hit it exactly on that line. And it's very hard to do, you know, especially on a short putt and under pressure. The putter is going to come over the top. It's going to come over the top. So if you were just to take it and address it in the heel as a nice drill, take it back, it'll come out the middle. Address it there, take it back, it'll come out the middle.
That's cool. It's similar to, do you putt much with, like, you know, your right hand or left hand? I mean, do you do any of those drills at all? No mess around with it? No. You just kind of have your own recipe, right?
Yeah, I think it's all about feel. You know, I think I think what you do in the practice putting green, you must be able to take to the golf course. I see a lot of guys that they get to the putting green just before they're about to go to the tee. They jam a few 3-footers into the hole, and then off they go. Then they get on the first hole and they got a delicate 3-footer down the hill, and they didn't practice that feel sensation on the putting green. So it's important to do these feel putts on the putting green. Just get the ball to dribble into the hole, you know, from 3 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. And that way you're teaching yourself a feel all the time. All right. So you get on the golf course, you have a feel that you've arrived with, not bang a 3-footer in and you've left there with no feel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that it's one of the drills we do is we get them around 6 feet going uphill, and then I'll turn around and put them dead downhill and let them go at it. Because, you know, you want them to get them, you know, when you got a backboard, when you have a hill and there's no really, you know, you're not really penalized for going at it. Yeah. You should.
Well, I'm saying there's one thing practicing that on a Tuesday, Wednesday, but then come Thursday morning before you're going to go to the first tee, you know, you have those skills that you can rely on, that you've developed in practice. But now you've got 10 minutes for your tee time. You need to get a sensation or a feel going when you go on the golf course.
I think what I like about the downhill part too is that's where you're going to, you know, uphill, you're probably not going to lose strokes. I mean, I'm always looking at where can you gain strokes on your competition? Like, I mean, one of them is like what you just said is downhill. If you have a 10 or even if it's not even 3 feet, if it's 5 or 10 or 15 feet and it's straight downhill, and you know, versus 10 feet up the hill the other way, that one you're most likely not going to 3-putt going up the hill. But downhill, you dang sure can 3-putt that. If you have those hand in hand, you have no feel.
Yeah, so, I remember at the Masters, if you had a 30-footer downhill, the last thing you want to do is leave it short. You always wanted to make sure that putt got past the hole, because having to now have a 3-footer for your second putt down the hill, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah. It put some gray hairs on you, right?
Yeah, that's why they're all up here, you know.
You're doing pretty good with it. So, hey, I was going to ask you this earlier, but got away from me. But tell us about Colonial. What the news is on that?
Yeah, I just heard I saw the schedule come out on Friday. So the Colonial has been moved for the week of the 8th of June. Since I'm exempt because of my win back in '97, I'm eligible to play. So I think I'll wander over to Texas.
Come on, man. We want to see you.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun.
Take out and we'll have some fun. We'll make a lot of videos, but also we'll have a hell of a time too.
Yeah, so Fort Worth always takes me back to the days that I lived in Dallas. But even before that, I came to the tour school in Palm Springs in 1984. After I made it through the tour school, I needed a replacement sand wedge, and I actually roomed with Jimmy Johnson, who caddies for Justin Thomas. Jimmy says, "Well, come visit me, and I'll take you to the factory, and we'll get you a wedge." So on the way back to South Africa, hadn't spent any time in Texas, didn't know anything about it, but stopped with Jimmy and went to the Hogan factory, and that was my first introduction to Hogan. At my club where I spoke about earlier, where John Ferree was my pro, I bought my first set of Apex 2s, and that lasted me all the way through my first 3 years of being a professional. And then my sand wedge had become concave almost, and I went over to Fort Worth, and that was my first introduction to the Hogan company. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I ended up playing Hogan clubs until 1994, when Hogan was bought by a Japanese company. I think it was that, but anyway, that's not important. So but then I moved to Dallas in '85, '86, and I used to do regular trips to the Hogan company.
Yeah, that's one of my buddies. You may know his name, you may not, but he worked for. He's got a funny story, and I'll tell you about it later. But it has to do with the U.S. Open trophies and having to take them being responsible for them the entire time at the PGA show. He had to take Ben Hogan's the U.S. Open trophies to the PGA show one year, and it's pretty funny story. I'll save that for later. But his name was Kelly O'Donnell. Is Kelly O'Donnell, and but he said, yeah, he remembers. Obviously, he knows you from playing, but he said he remembers when you were on staff and you came up. He was there when Hogan was there.
Good guy. So when we played the Colonial every year, the Hogan would have a staff party, you want to call it that, and all the staff players, he would entertain us at Shady Oaks, where he was a member, and he would just tell us stories there, and it was quite an amazing memories if you think back about it now.
I can't even imagine. I want to back up just a shade because you talked about you kind of concave in your sand wedge in the face. I know you know what that means, and I know what that means because I've had them from just overuse and just hammering wedges and all that. Could you kind of go into that and how many balls you're hitting with that sand wedge and what you're talking about with that concave? Because a lot of guys won't understand it.
Yeah, so there you have the grooves on the club face. We all know what they look like. And then once those grooves start wearing out, the face goes inward, and that's what we call concave. So the grooves wear out and the face goes, and it's hitting a lot of bunker shots. You get the sand between the ball and the grooves, and that's what wears it out.
Yeah, and especially if it's a little. Sometimes how they put the sand application on the grass, and then you got it's wet in the mornings. That can really get it going too. That grinding, but the problem with that is you start getting jumpers on you. When you're playing at your level, you can't afford to have jumpers. When it's there's no really spin because it really is kind of like It's almost maybe like a little over a quarter of a golf ball, would you say? Maybe a quarter of a golf ball, and it goes just inward into the face, and you've worn it out. I mean, you've literally worn the face out.
Yeah, you know, the bunker shots come sideways. You know, you're swinging outside and across. So you're slicing through those grooves and the sand, as I say, that all wears on the glove face. It's not like a chip where it goes inside out.
Yeah, and it's just getting that. Yeah, like you're talking about with chip. You know, you're not getting all this masse on the face. You know,
correct,
but when you hit
correct.
bunker shots, you're coming this way, and that ball's sliding around the face, right?
Yeah, and that eventually that sand is like, you know, sandpaper on wood.
That's exactly right. Speaking of bunker play, and I had this on my list as well today, but I know Gary Player from just his books, from what I read. You know, it was a freak at how much he practiced bunker play. But and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he was the one guy that made bunker play he was a different level. He was light years ahead above most of the competition, if not all the competition, in his era at bunker play, and his workout probably had a lot to do with it. But then now you look at the South African players, yourself included, and all the guys, whether it's Bioman, Els, or they're all South Africans, just notorious for great bunker play, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I'll move my position here, and where I have some room to show you on a takeaway.
Yeah. Hey, can I grab that sandwich? I want to just mess around.
This?
Yeah, that's mine. That's perfect. Thanks, man.
You see me? All right. There you go.
Got you.
So what I like to teach with the bunker play is to hold the club with the right hand just by supporting it with the club face really open. Right. So as holding the club with your right hand, you have room to put your left hand on the club. So now you put your left hand on the club with the club face being really open. All right. Now your right hand's free. Now you put the right hand on. So now the club face is a lot open. It's not, you don't grip the club and then try and open it. All right. Since you've gripped, now you go with the left right hand. So with a regular chip shot, your club face is a lot more square. With a bunker play, it's a lot more open. So what you're trying to do on the backswing is you want to feel like the heel of the club gets to the top and the toe is on the down. Right? So the heel, you feel that rotating. And now that you've opened the club face, you've opened the club face at address, the center of gravity of the club has moved way forward. If you square it up, the center of gravity is in back. You just
freezing up a little bit.
To rotate, heel over toe, heel over toe, heel over the toe. So from this position here, you can come down and the club will slice through the ground a lot better. So heel over toe, the club will slice through the ground, and it's a lot more open through the shot than, there you go. Open, grip the club, center of gravity is forward. It'll fall over the top a lot easier. And from there, you just hold it on the way down.
Yeah, so I know there's so many different shots in the bunker, and there's different, you have your short, mid, long range and everything else. And but what I like about that is it gives you a basic way to just get started. This was a really cool. We don't have any sand on it, but yeah, we do. Hold on a second. You may have heard this one before, but do it. This was an old Butch Harmon one it's a good tip after I think the whole thing is setting up, which was great what you gave us with the face and everything. But, he would put sand on the face and he'd say, feel like you sling the sand over your right shoulder, or like this right here. And that would get it would get the face. You know, you're not gonna, if the face is down, you know, obviously you're hooded. That's death and a lot of different things. But or steep too. But you had to kind of have your feet,
yeah,
kind of like you hit sand on the face here, and then you fling it over here.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Yeah,
that was a great tip. I think with Claude that gave it to Bush.
Again, you got to get in a good starting position by setting that club in the right hand with the left hand, and now you start.
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's the, you know, that's David. One of the things that, you know, when I would go to teach bunkers, the first thing I just let people do what they do. I don't get involved until they've done what they do, so they know the difference. But you know, they start off square. They start off their body square like this, and then they just, you know, they just do this, and it doesn't work for them because they're sticking the leading edge in, and there's no gliding of the bounce and sliding of the club. It's like getting them set up is just magic. If, like you said, they'll set up square, and so you tell them to open the club, and then they'll open their whole body like this.
Correct.
Backwards.
Yeah.
And moving everything, and it's like, you don't tilt your body like that. Just you get the club here, keep your body like a cross, get your grip right, put it down, and then
there you go.
most battles won.
Some of the questions I get from the better golfers out of bunkers is they ask, what is the difference between a long bunker shot and a short bunker shot? How do you control the distance? So for me, on a short bunker shot, I like to stand open and take the club outside the line. All right, and then bring it, just drop it on the inside.
Yep.
So a short bunker shot, that by taking it outside, you sort of cutting off your the length of your swing, your arc. So your arc's a lot smaller by taking it outside.
Yep. I think we froze up.
Outside, take a little more inside. And at the time you're taking a little more inside, you're actually increasing the arc, which allows you to get the ball to travel.
Hey, that's really important. Hey, our video froze up probably because we're swinging. So hold on just a second, and then I want to go back over that. If you can hear me. Did
we freeze up?
Yeah. It's from swing. What happens? It's the motion of the shaft. Now we're good now. Hey, David, we caught that. I know what you're talking about, but it didn't go through. It's about on your long range bunker shots about the difference in how you take the club back and so forth.
So on the short,
it just doesn't motion.
You know what? How do you control the long shot versus the short shot? So what I like to do is the short shot, take it outside the line. If you take it outside, you're not increasing, your arc is generally a lot shorter. So that's easier to hitting the short bunker shot. I take it outside, bring it inside on the way down, and the club face stays open because that outside, you know, the arc is only to here and it's not all the way back. The longer bunker shot, feel like you're taking it inside, and at that time you're increasing your arc, which allows the ball to travel a little further.
Yeah. I like that. That's one of the things I learned by watching with Pernice. Hit some long-range bunker shots, just through observation. But it's exactly what you talked about. He still has club open. It wasn't as much open, but his long-range shots probably used 52 versus a 56. I don't know.
No, I stick to the same club.
Same club, but he would take it instead of maybe instead of going out a little bit and then bringing it into the body, he would kind of bring it a little more here, and then bring it into the body. Is that what you're saying?
And you'll stand a little squarer too, which also helps to take it a little on the inside, which also helps to increase the arc a little bit. So all of those things, definitely help the cause.
Can you see my feet right here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So even if if you're maybe doing the short range and
put another club down. Put another club down.
Yeah. Let's do that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So let's go this way for the short range.
Yeah.
We're going there. Let me get a ball out here so I can give them.
So what's important? If you're setting your feet open, the club face is open. The grooves are facing out to the right. The grooves are facing out to the right. So with the grooves facing out to the right, don't follow the grooves on the way back. Don't follow the grooves on the way back. Make sure the club stays on the straight line going back and not inside. Just the first, just the first, no, just the first 10, 20 inches. It just stays, yeah, that's all. Now it doesn't go on the inside. It doesn't follow the angle of what the grooves are set up at. Just right there. And then from there, now it can go its way. But for the short shot outside, long shot inside. Long shot, you can make it follow the grooves, but not the short shot.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I want to get your opinion on this, but that's the one thing that I noticed too. And when he was hitting long range shots, and I've seen other players do this as well. You know, you get too much open and the club's open, man, you got to really take a good well at it, you know. But he would square out. He would have a still club maybe a little bit open. It wouldn't square by any means. And then he would swing, like you said, more like a golf swing, still let it open a little bit, but then he would bring that handle really sharp across, and it would be a real skinny. It was kind of a real skinny.
Yeah, like I mean, the trick is you want to, the club must always be accelerating out the bunker or in the bunker. You always want to accelerate. So what do you have to do to accelerate? You know, with the long one, you stand square. You know the club is going to come in shallower because you're standing more square. It's coming from the inside. Another reason why it's going to be shallow. And that allows you to be aggressive. Whereas if you've got the short shot, you take it outside the line. You know, your arc is very small, is not so long. And again, you can be aggressive. So the key is to be as aggressive as possible in the bunker.
I think what's your thoughts on it helping with just overall and general hand-eye timing too? Like you hear and your other sense of your ears, you know, you can really hear a good player always talks about, they say it a lot of different ways, but you know, the soul, you know, spanking the ground, or you know, hear all kinds about it, but it seems like it gives a great reference of practicing hand-eye coordination for everything.
Well, hey, again, if you don't have the right fundamentals, it's very hard to become aggressive, to become
we froze. That's for me swinging around.
It's good because he trusts what's going to happen. You know, he feels confident what's going to happen. And, you know, I think that's why I'm a good bunker player, is because, you know, I trust what I'm doing. I feel confident that what I'm trying to do is the right way. And then the sound is there, and the carry is there. I can feel it before I even hit the shot.
How much would you say, and you may have already said it, we froze for just a second. We got a lot of that, but how much would you say setup is in I would say like, you know, well, bunkers and like pitching, not chipping. Chipping, you know, chipping and pitching are kind of like brothers, and then pitching and bunkers are somewhat like that. But what would you say, how much importance is like, you know, setup, you know, being like the setup all the way from, you know, like you said earlier, from the feet to the getting the club face right at address, for what you're looking for, and before even the swing starts, what would you say the ratio would be, setup to swing?
You know, there's 90% confidence in the setup. It's all about the setup, because if your setup's bad, the club's going to go in a bad direction. I saw, I think for the greater player that he is the poorest bunker shot player that I've ever seen in Matsuyama.
Oh, really?
I just looked at his setup when he was getting in a bunker he was over the green. Coming back, and I just saw his up in his practice swing, and I just thought there's no way he's going to hit a good shot, and he did not hit a good shot. It was a deceleration to the ball on his way down, and funny you should ask me that question, but I thought his whole technique, his setup, everything was bad, and he hit a bad shot too. So maybe he'll come to me for a golf lesson.
He should. I think you should probably go
for a bunker lesson. Sorry.
For that. That's the one thing I think. If you get somebody set up right, which is especially with, you know, the better player can somewhat, adjust. Not somewhat. They adjust much faster than that. But it's still the same thing. I mean, even as talented as that guy is, a mistake there. Like I remember when Dustin Johnson got on the tour, and I remember how bad he just pitched the ball. I mean, but he had no chance. The club was, it was bending down, and it was shutting inside like this, and he's trying to pitch the ball. And I'm like, hey, there's not a chance in hell you're going to get a good there, man. And of course, Butch got with him and dialed him in, or who I believe was Butch, but he's not going to let somebody get it inside and shut on a pitch shot. I can assure you that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you take a world class player, and I still think that when you get around pitching and bunkers, your setup is like you said. I mean, you said 90%. I'd say the same. I'd say every bit of it, and then not getting the club shut going back and inside. When I say
the setup and stuff, but I mean, you watch Sevi get in the bunker, and before he gives a shot, he's going to hit. Go to YouTube and see Sevi's updates on exhibitions that he gave and just swing tips. He gets in the bunker and just the way he holds the club, he's going to hit a good shot.
Yeah, well, as you said on the first podcast we did, that Sevi practiced on the beach. I mean, it's a pretty big bunker, and said that was contributed to him being not only he was just a freak of anything. He had more European wins than anybody ever, if I'm not mistaken, and won at Masters at 19 or something like that. Crazy.
No, he was. I can keep talking about him all day long.
I might have to sneak a few stories in from you when you're here in the Dallas area.
When I come for Colonial.
Yeah, yep. Hey, that's gonna be fun, man.
Yes.
So what's your plans this week? You working with your trainer? I know you've been working out and getting kind of prepped up, getting ready.
Yeah, it's I'm in my 5th week now. As it's turned out, it's the break I've been looking for in golf. I would have loved to have taken a 2-month break over my career every year, but it just wasn't possible. So this is a welcome break for me now. It is what it is. So I'm just taking it one day at a time. I like to work out with George. We do it on Skype every morning, so I can see him, he can see me. And he can pick up on a couple of things that I'm not doing right. I love his exercise routine. And I do my Peloton bike outside of that for an hour as well. Weekends I take it easy, a couple of glasses of wine,
Yep.
And it's nice to be home and just have less on my mind.
Yeah, just the traveling that I did. Oh gosh, that was, I guess, maybe 6-7 years ago out on the tour. It was, everybody thinks that when you live on the outside world, you're not on the inside world as either a player, a coach, or a trainer, or whatever it may be. You go to these events, you hit 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, and you're like, oh my God, I'm not even playing, and I'm exhausted. And
I learned that from Payne Stewart. Payne always used to just play 3 tournaments in a row.
It's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, because you don't realize that was the first thing that I was in very, very, very good shape when I was out there. I was training every day, and I remember how exhausted I was at the end of I think maybe 4. It was 4 and maybe 1 off or something like that, and that 1 week I was like just recovery central, and like I said, there's a certain endurance a tour player has mentally and physically that people don't understand, because to play in these arenas where there's you got cameras running around, you got 100,000 people out there, especially the weekends, and and you're having to look this way the entire time and not get distracted and focus the entire time. and you have to travel, and you have to prepare for the next. It's just it's impressive to me. It's something I had no clue until I was seeing the players go through it. And people don't have. It's not like people think that. Like, oh man, they get to go to the prettiest golf. Yeah, you do. But these guys are.
Yeah.
They're not lounging around. There might be a few guys, but they're probably not winning week to week to week or cashing in week to week. But the guys are very disciplined. They just. Yeah, they're in great places. They're awesome resorts. That's part of the deal. They deserve every bit of it. But they're working, and they're traveling. Next week it's bang somewhere else and rest for a little bit.
I always found it important to for the 2 weeks that I was away. Actually, and I work up during those 2 weeks or that 1 week that I have off. You see some guys who are golf course designers while they're still playing the tour. So they're playing golf for 3 weeks, and then the week off, they've flown over to Malaysia to go design a golf course. Then they come back, and they're going to play another tournament. So you didn't really rest that week. And then, that makes your year, spike or so your highs are high, your lows are low. Whereas if you were if you rest when you go home, then you come out and you're ready to go again, rather than almost that first week you tend to want to rest because you're tired from the week before. So it's important to, when you have that week off, to switch off.
Froze. It's just from swinging, man. That's what does it. How's your battery?
I can't tell.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we're good. We missed that last part a little bit. I know we let where it started to drop is where you said you got to learn how to switch off. After you played the tour, you're going to take your week and recover. It kind of froze right in that area, and I know that's a really important area, and I don't want the viewers to miss that part.
So yeah, I think it's important to, when you take the week off, to go home, rest, and then take it up again. So I would take Monday, Tuesday off, but make sure you rest when you go home. Don't go home. Like I said earlier, you find guys that are golf architects and they take a week off from the tour, but they fly to Malaysia, design a golf course, or check out the property, and then come back again. So it's important during that time off to switch off and allow yourself to switch back on again.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, that was one of the questions. That was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and you answered it, and how you handle it. I know there's different theories out there as far as how many weeks you go, and then if you win, what do you do? Do you keep plugging? Do you keep going? I've heard that theory too.
Yes. No, I like to plan my year at the beginning of the year and stick to that as much as possible. I'll tell you an interesting story about that. But
yep.
I'd like to, again, I don't get home after a Sunday and go to the driving range on a Monday or Tuesday. I don't think that's right for your whole brain. You want to switch off so your brain can reignite in those 4 days that you take off, and then start up on a Thursday, Friday again. No, not Thursday, Friday. But it's important to take that time off and give yourself that break. But 1991, I worked out my schedule. I'd missed 7 cuts in a row, and I was not going to play New Orleans. But I said to myself, I've got to keep going now. I can't go home and take a break when I've missed 7 cuts in a row. So I committed to the tournament in New Orleans on the Friday, but I'd had a Wednesday function that I'd committed to in Kansas with Bob Rotella. So I had a Monday outing in Shreveport. To see the golf course, practice round on Tuesday, went to my outing in Kansas City on Tuesday night, spent the day with Bob Rotella on the Wednesday. Wednesday night, I flew back to New Orleans, but I stopped over in Dallas. Since I had a late tee time on Thursday, I figured I'll sleep in Dallas on Wednesday night and then fly out Thursday morning. Sitting on the runway in Dallas at about 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, it was a thunderstorm that was passing through there. A little bit of a delay. I was in a little bit of a panic. My tee time was at 1 o'clock. Arrived in New Orleans. The courtesy car picked me up straight to the golf course, and I won the tournament.
Yeah, that'll change the game a little bit.
Yeah, so there I did change my plan after missing 7 cuts in a row. That was the tournament where I hold the bunker shot on the 18th hole to beat Greg Norman.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
There are times I think where you can change it.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I wanted to ask you about. Is there's a lot of different theories. Like when you're, it's one thing if you're slumping and you're an amateur. It's one thing. Another thing if you're on the, you make your livelihood and everything is based around, you're playing cash and checks or not for a living, playing the game. And that was when you get in slumps, like what's the, Jeff Maggart had a good line, and it was very similar to what you said as well. But it was like, when he would get in a bad slump on the tour, he would just go take about 3 to 4 days off and just do anything except golf. He would just, if like it was just that bad and he was struggling and he couldn't find it and just wasn't there, he just get away like 3 days, nothing, no touch a club, don't think about golf, don't do anything, and then bang, come back to put the peg in the ground and start playing again, and then he said it, that was a lot of that was one of the things that really helped him. But
yep.
Sometimes
it's like I've been trying to. That's what I've been trying to. The message I've been trying to get across. If you do that all the time on your week off, you allow yourself to sort of breathe a little more and have new ideas come in when you do start up.
I wanted to ask you about overtime. I used to do this, and I think about everybody I know, especially from my generation, probably up. I think it's getting better now because there's more information now. But overtrain, you're putting a stack of golf balls this big, and you're in a slump, and you just sit out there on the range all day and banging away, and you're not competing, and you're trying to find perfect, whatever it may be, ball flight, swing, whatever. But and you're trying, and you just keep doing it, and you just get exhausted, you're worn out. I would usually get more balls if I would just overkill it and I was not doing well. I usually got way worse. I would have to go out where I found it for myself was. It was later on, but I'd just go play and compete and just hell, I wouldn't even warm up. Because I'm pretty flexible anyway, I just put the peg in the ground, go hit it, figure it out. And then my natural senses started coming back and playing the game versus trying to sit here and go, be perfect.
Sometimes it helps going to play rounds of golf rather than standing on the driving range. Go out and just play. Play 2 rounds in one day rather than trying to hit balls for 4 hours.
Yeah, I got into, I think anybody like yourself, anybody that's been around it since they're little and up, and you can hit balls all day. Your endurance for golf, I probably can't run across the driving range, but I can hit golf. I guarantee I can hit golf balls all day long. But not saying that that's their. I think that you got to mix your game up, a lot of pitching and chipping and lots of putting and more of that. It seems like maybe a bucket of balls and find somebody to gamble with that's better than you, and you'll probably get better.
Yeah, Lee Trevino used to play a lot more of those, betting rounds of golf than standing on the driving range, and that's great for you.
Yeah, what's your thoughts? I mean, I did a seminar. I can't remember. Is Matthew Nutting? He's a mental coach who works with a lot of the guys on the European tour, McIlroy and Luke Donald and a few others. But he was at the shop, and we had a bunch of parents there. But I was talking about the importance of gambling, playing for something. I'm not saying play for a Coca-Cola, play for whatever you want to play for. I don't care. But you got to if you don't compete. I've never met a great player in my life that didn't play for something, or compete, against.
No, definitely. Even on the putting green. It's nice to have little gambling matches on the putting green. Again, it's not a big wager. Growing up, my dad used to play competitive golf on a Saturday, and they'd play for they'd call it half one, half a ball the front, half a ball the back, and a ball on the game. So if you lose, you're losing 2 golf balls to the guy you're playing with. So it doesn't have to be money. It could be
Yep.
bottle of wine.
Yeah. It could be a bottle of wine. That'd be good. Now, speaking of the bottle of wine, I want to get. We talked about. I want to talk more about the wine as well, because the farming aspects of it intrigue me quite a bit as well, besides just the wine. But when you were playing, that would, to me, would be something that would. I can't imagine the level it takes to to be at where you were playing at, and then in '94, I think in '93 you were top 5 on the PGA Tour money list. '94, if I'm not mistaken, you bought the 300 acres in South Africa for your vineyard, and then so you're playing on the tour and you're managing this. It's got to be a little bit of chaos with that. Could you explain some of that and how that?
Yeah, I suppose it was, but luckily I had operations there that took care of itself. I had a brother; he ran the whole facility. So after that, I'd say it definitely affected my game a little bit. But if I look back, I don't think I would have changed things. It's something I really enjoyed, playing golf and doing and building the brand. What I was good at is once I step inside the ropes, I'm able to switch off.
Yeah.
So I would pay attention to the business while I'm not playing golf, and when I'm on the golf course, I'm just able to switch off. So Rotella didn't think it was a bad thing. He thought it was a good thing for me to have something else to focus on when I did go home. So I guess I'm lucky that I could switch off like that.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. We're getting told we got to wrap it up here a little bit. So I wanted to go over your record one more time because I think it's really important for the younger generation. My generation knows exactly who you are, but the younger kids need to respect and the lineage of the game and the history of the game. And, you're 10-time PGA Tour winner, 6-time Champions Tour winner, won internationally, played a multiple President's Cup, and it's always an honor to have you on, David. And we're going to keep this thing rolling as long as you want to keep it rolling. It's a blast.
Oh, I look forward to it. I've enjoyed the chat with you, and his memories come back to mind. So it's always nice to bring him and tell stories about it. So I'll think of a few more, and I look forward to our next chat too.
Yeah, there's a lot of great information. I want to tell everybody where they can get your. Are we good?
Mm-hmm.
The website. I know it's. I'll let you say it.
You can go to shopfrostwine.com. It takes you straight to the order page. Right now, during the lockdown, we're doing a special. Typically, it retails at $15 a bottle, and we're doing it at $9 if you order 12 bottles, $9.99 I think it is. And we can ship to at least 35 states. You can have the wine in 3 or 4 days. We got a Sauvignon Blanc, Rosé, a Cab, Shiraz, and a Pinotage. So just a nice daily drinking wine. I think you'll enjoy it.
That'd be great. I'll let the guys know, especially here. They've got the one distribution center here, probably multiple across the states, but definitely here in Dallas but like I said, they can distribute to 35 states, and you should take advantage of it. It's great wine. It's great people. It's a family-owned business, third generation with David now, and it's pretty awesome, with what they're doing with that and as well. And
I have one more just reminder. You can also buy a different label wine at Trader Joe's. We have a Sauvignon Blanc and a red blend that does really well with Trader Joe's, and it's under the David Frost label.
And one more thing, give us a shout out to your fitness coach. I know you're doing some good things with him. I don't know his last name, or I'd mention it, but
George Montoya.
All right, I'll let everybody else try to figure that one out. But
great. Well, thanks for having me, Matt. I look forward to the next session.
Let's do it next week, man. We'll have maybe if you want to do, we might do a little golf fitness or talk a little bit, whatever you want to do.
I love that. We get George on Zoom.
Let's do that. Let's get him on here and let's talk about it and do it. Demonstrate.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
See you, David.
Have a good day. Bye.